Commander Lyra Vale stood motionless on the bridge of the Stellar Seeker, her copper-scaled fingers hovering over the sensor displays. The holographic readouts made no sense. According to every survey protocol and developmental model in the galactic archives, Earth should be decades away from achieving quantum manipulation. Yet here they were, detecting controlled quantum fields emanating from the depths of the Pacific Ocean. "Run the diagnostic sequence again," she ordered, her secondary eyes narrowing at the data streams. The ship's AI complied silently, its crystalline processors humming as they processed terabytes of sensor data. "Analysis complete," the AI announced. "Quantum signature patterns confirmed. Energy output equivalent to a Class I civilization." First Officer Tarn clicked his mandibles in disbelief. Impossible. Their surface installations barely qualify as Class I. They still burn fossil fuels. "Surface installations," Lyra emphasized, her scales shifting to a deeper shade of copper as she contemplated the implications. "What if we've been looking in the wrong direction?" The Stellar Seeker hung in low Earth orbit, its advanced cloaking systems rendering it invisible to human detection methods. They'd spent the past 3 months documenting human civilization, their primitive space stations, their polluting industries, their chaotic cities. Nothing had suggested they were capable of this level of technology. "Focus deep scan arrays on these coordinates," Lyra commanded, highlighting a section of the Mariana Trench. The holographic display expanded, peeling away layers of ocean like translucent sheets. At first, there was nothing but darkness and pressure readings that made even the ship's AI pause in calculation. Then they saw it. "By the ancient void," Tarn whispered, all 4 of his eyes widening. "That's not possible." A city sprawled across the ocean floor, its architecture unlike anything in the galactic archives. Instead of fighting against the crushing pressures, the structures seemed to work with them. Massive buildings flowed like liquid metal, adjusting their shape to accommodate ocean currents. Transparent domes housed what appeared to be vast agricultural sections, illuminated by a network of bioluminescent arrays that pulsed with life. "Population estimate?" Lyra asked, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's systems. "Initial scan indicates approximately 3 million human life signs," the AI reported. "And something else." The sensors revealed massive organic signatures moving through and around the city. At first, Lyra thought they were whales, but their movement patterns were too precise, too coordinated. They were working with the humans, maintaining external structures and facilitating transportation between different sectors. "They've done it," Lyra breathed, her scales now shimmering with excitement. "They've achieved symbiosis with their planet's native deep-sea species." "Commander," the sensor officer interrupted, his tendrils twitching nervously. "We're detecting similar structures in the Atlantic, and the Indian Ocean, and the Arctic." Lyra felt her heart skip a beat. This wasn't just a single experimental settlement. This was a global civilization operating literally beneath the surface of human society. "New contact," Tarn announced suddenly. "Something's rising from the city. Fast." Before Lyra could respond, their communications array activated. A human voice, speaking perfect galactic standard, filled the bridge. "Stellar Seeker, this is Deep City Control. We've been expecting you. Welcome to New Atlantis." The bridge crew stared at their commander in stunned silence. Lyra's scales shifted through a rainbow of colors as she processed this development. Every first contact protocol, every assumption about human technological progress, had just been shattered. "How did they detect us?" Tarn demanded. A soft chuckle came over the comm. "Commander Vale, when you live under millions of tons of water pressure, you learn to detect the smallest disturbances. Your cloaking technology is impressive, but you can't hide from pressure waves." Lyra made a decision. "This is Commander Vale of the galactic survey vessel Stellar Seeker. We request permission to learn more." "Permission granted," the human voice replied, warm with amusement. "Prepare for escort. And Commander, you might want to brace yourself. What you've seen so far is just the surface of our little secret. As Lyra watched sleek vessels rise from the depths to surround her ship, she realized that the Galactic Council's entire understanding of civilizational development was about to change. Humanity hadn't just survived in Earth's most hostile environment. They had mastered it. And something told her that was just the beginning of their surprises. The descent into New Atlantis challenged everything Commander Vale thought she knew about human capabilities. Their escort vessels moved through the water with impossible grace, generating quantum pressure fields that protected the stellar seeker from the crushing depths. As they descended deeper, the darkness gave way to rivers of bioluminescent light that wound through the water like glowing arteries. Approaching main airlock, announced their escort, a vessel that seemed to ripple and flex like a living creature. Dr. Elena Santos will be your liaison. She heads our first contact division. Tarn's analytical mind was already racing. First contact division. They've been preparing for us. For longer than you might think, a new voice joined their communication channel. I'm Dr. Santos. And yes, we've known about the galactic community for quite some time. The airlock that received them was a masterpiece of engineering. Instead of traditional mechanical systems, it used a series of controlled water pressure gradients to create a seamless transition from ocean to atmosphere. As Lyra and her team stepped through, their environmental suits automatically adjusting to the pressure changes, they found themselves face to face with Dr. Santos. The human woman wore what appeared to be a simple bodysuit, but Lyra's enhanced vision could detect complex patterns of quantum circuitry woven through the fabric. More striking were her eyes. They held an iridescent quality that reminded Lyra of deep-sea creatures. The eyes. Santos smiled, noting Lyra's attention. Side effect of our adaptation protocols. Most of us who live in the deep cities have them now. Helps us see in the dark. You've modified your own biology, Tarn observed, his mandibles clicking with interest. We had to. Santos led them through corridors that seemed to be grown rather than built, living walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. What you're about to learn is classified at the highest levels of our government. The surface world doesn't even know. They entered a vast chamber that took Lyra's breath away. The ceiling was a massive dome of transparent material that should have been impossible at this depth, offering a view of the darkness above where massive shapes moved with deliberate purpose. Below, the city spread out like a living organism, buildings flowing into each other in patterns that defied conventional architecture. 20 years ago, Santos began, activating a holographic display in the center of the room. Our deep-sea research stations detected something unusual. A pattern in the quantum field that surrounds Earth. Something was coming. The hologram showed a massive disturbance in space, still decades away from Earth, but moving with clear purpose. We call them the depth hunters. They've done this before, seeking out worlds with vast oceans, harvesting them of all life, and moving on. Traditional space-based defenses would be useless against them. So you went underwater, Lyra realized, her scales shifting to a deep blue of understanding. Built cities where they wouldn't expect to find advanced civilization. More than that, Santos corrected. We learned from the true masters of Earth's oceans. She gestured to one of the massive shapes outside the dome. What Lyra had assumed was some kind of maintenance machine was actually a colossal squid, its tentacles delicately adjusting external power conduits. The deep-sea species of Earth had already developed ways to manipulate quantum fields naturally. Santos continued. We didn't invent this technology. We learned it from them. The whales, the squid, even the microscopic life forms down here. They'd been using quantum communication and manipulation for millions of years. Tarn's analytical mind was racing. Your surface civilization is partly a cover, Santos nodded. Keep everyone looking up at space while we prepare down here. The depth hunters won't expect to find resistance in the deep. That's our advantage. A new hologram appeared, showing a network of underwater cities spanning the globe's oceans. Each one was built around what appeared to be natural quantum field nodes, tapping into Earth's own deep-sea power grid. We're not just hiding, Santos' voice took on a steel edge. We're preparing. When they come, they'll find something they've never encountered before. A species that turned their own hunting ground into our fortress. Lyra stared at the human woman, seeing her species in an entirely new light. The Galactic Council needs to know about this threat. That's why we let you find us. Santos smiled. We've learned a lot from our ocean-dwelling teachers, Commander, including patience. Now, would you like to see what else we've been working on? As if in response, a whale song echoed through the city, but this was no natural call. It was a complex mathematical sequence, a quantum calculation broadcast through the depths. Humanity hadn't just adapted to the deep. They'd become something entirely new. The surface thinks we're preparing for space, Santos said, leading them toward what appeared to be a research section. They're not wrong. But first, we need to protect our home. All of it. The oceans, the land, everything. The depth hunters aren't just facing humanity. They're facing a planet that's learned to fight back. The research wing of New Atlantis defied everything Commander Vale thought she knew about technological progression. Instead of the sterile labs she expected, she found herself in what appeared to be a living ecosystem of science and innovation. Massive tanks lined the walls, each containing different species of deep-sea creatures working in apparent collaboration with human scientists. You have to understand, Dr. Santos explained as they passed a chamber where a team of humans and octopi manipulated quantum interfaces together. We didn't just build cities underwater. We had to fundamentally rethink what civilization means. A young scientist approached them, her suit rippling with patterns that mimicked octopus chromatophores. Dr. Santos, the coral matrix just achieved quantum coherence. It's ready for integration. Santos's eyes lit up. Perfect timing. Commander Vale, would you like to see something that even the Galactic Council hasn't achieved yet? They entered a vast chamber where massive structures of living coral pulsed with quantum energy. But this wasn't natural coral. Each formation had been carefully grown and engineered, its biological structure modified to serve as living quantum computers. Traditional quantum computing fails under these pressures, Santos explained. So we looked to species that had already solved that problem. Coral colonies naturally process information across their entire structure. We just enhanced that ability. Tarn moved closer to one of the coral matrices, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his usual reserve. You're using biological systems for quantum computation. Not just computation. Santos smiled. Watch this. She pressed her hand against a coral interface. The entire structure lit up with bioluminescent patterns, and suddenly the water around them seemed to fold. A window opened in space itself, showing them a view of another underwater city thousands of miles away. Quantum tunneling. Lyra gasped. Through water. The oceans aren't a barrier to quantum effects. They're a conduit, Santos explained. Every drop of water is connected to every other drop through quantum entanglement. Once we understood that, transportation became much simpler. They watched as a maintenance crew stepped through the water window as easily as walking through a door, beginning their shift in a city on the other side of the planet. But this isn't even our most impressive achievement, Santos continued, leading them deeper into the research wing. We've learned that consciousness itself works differently down here. They entered a chamber that hummed with quantum potential. In the center, a massive sperm whale floated in what appeared to be liquid light. Its brain patterns were displayed on surrounding screens, showing activity that should have been impossible. Meet Professor DeepMind, Santos said with obvious pride. He's one of our leading researchers in quantum physics. Turns out whale brains are naturally capable of quantum computation at a scale we're only beginning to understand. They've been doing complex calculations about ocean currents and navigation for millions of years. The whale's consciousness reached out to them, not through sound or movement, but directly through the quantum field. Lyra felt concepts and ideas flowing into her mind, theories about space and time that made her advanced scientific training seem primitive in comparison. The Depth Hunters won't just be facing our technology, Santos said quietly. They'll be facing the combined intellectual might of every species in Earth's oceans. We're not just defending our world, we're defending our partner's home too. A group of engineered jellyfish drifted past, their bodies serving as living power conduits that distributed energy throughout the city. In another chamber, schools of fish moved in precise patterns, their synchronized movements generating quantum fields that protected the city from the crushing depths. Your species accomplished all this in just 20 years? Tarn asked, his mandibles twitching with disbelief. No, Santos corrected him. We merely joined a civilization that was already here. The oceans have been alive with intelligence and technology for millions of years. We just had to learn how to listen, how to adapt, how to become part of something greater than ourselves. As if to emphasize her point, a young octopus jetted over to a nearby console, its tentacles dancing across the interface as it solved complex equations that would have taken supercomputers hours to process. The solution appeared instantly in glowing patterns across its skin. The Depth Hunters think they're coming to harvest a primitive world, Santos said, her eyes reflecting the bioluminescent patterns around them. Instead, they're going to face something they've never encountered before. A planet where biology and technology have become one, where every drop of water could be a weapon, every current a shield, and every creature a guardian of its home. Lyra watched as human and marine life worked together in perfect harmony, each contributing their unique strengths to a greater whole. She realized that humanity hadn't just survived in the depths, they had transcended their original limitations and become something entirely new. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, the Depth Hunters were approaching, unaware that their next target had transformed their hunting ground into the most formidable fortress in the galaxy. The emergency alert echoed through New Atlantis' command center, its quantum-harmonized tone piercing even the heaviest shielding. Commander Vale watched as Dr. Santos and her team burst into coordinated action, their movements precise despite the growing tension. Deep space sensors confirm, a young operator announced, his bioluminescent suit pulsing with urgent patterns. The Depth Hunters' advanced scout vessels have entered the Kuiper Belt. They're ahead of schedule. Santos's face hardened. Time to revelation. Surface detection systems will spot them within 48 hours. We can't hide this anymore. Lyra stepped forward, her scales shifting to match the emergency lighting. The Galactic Council must be informed. With their support, they'd never mobilize in time. Santos cut her off. And their conventional defenses would be useless. No, we stick to the plan. But now we need to bring the surface world into the loop. Multiple holographic screens materialized around them, showing news feeds from surface cities worldwide. Satellites were already tracking unusual objects entering the solar system. Social media buzzed with speculation and growing panic. All deep cities. This is control. Santos broadcast across the quantum network. Implementation of protocol surfacing begins now. Initiate synchronized reveal. Across Earth's oceans, dozens of underwater cities began to move. Massive structures that had remained hidden in the depths for decades started their carefully choreographed ascent. The seafloor itself seemed to shift as quantum-enhanced tectonic platforms adjusted to support the movement. Surface world governments are detecting the mass movement, Tarn reported, monitoring global communications. Military forces are mobilizing. Right on schedule, Santos nodded. She touched an interface, and her image was instantly broadcasted to every screen, every device, every communication channel on Earth. People of the surface world, she began, her voice calm but commanding. I am Dr. Elena Santos, speaking on behalf of the Deep Earth Initiative. What you are about to witness is not an invasion or an attack. It is the revelation of humanity's greatest achievement and most crucial defense. As she spoke, New Atlantis and its sister cities began breaching the surface, their massive forms rising from the waves like ancient leviathans. Quantum shields dispersed the water around them, creating spectacular displays of light and mist that caught the morning sun. 20 years ago, we detected an approaching threat to our world. Santos continued. In response, we did not look to the stars for salvation. We looked to the depths. In partnership with Earth's marine species, we have built something unprecedented, a civilization capable of defending our entire planet. The cities now floated majestically on the surface, their true scale finally visible to an astonished world. Massive whales breached alongside them, their bodies adorned with bioluminescent patterns that marked them as active partners in this revelation. Schools of engineered fish created living light shows, demonstrating their role in the city's quantum defense systems. The choice to keep this secret was not made lightly, Santos explained. We needed time. Time to learn, to build, to prepare. That time has run out. An ancient enemy approaches, one that has destroyed ocean worlds across the galaxy. They expect to find a primitive planet, ripe for harvesting. Instead, they will find us. Military vessels approaching the city suddenly found themselves surrounded by friendly but firm escorts. Sleek submarines that seemed to phase through water itself, their quantum drives making them merely invisible until the last moment. To the governments of Earth, we are not seeking to usurp your authority. We are not a separate nation or a breakaway civilization. We are humanity's shield, and we need your help. The knowledge and technology we have developed belongs to all of Earth. In orbit, Commander Vale's ship detected multiple quantum signatures activating across the planet's oceans. A vast network of defense systems, hidden until now, began powering up. The water itself seemed to come alive with possibility. And to our approaching enemy, Santos' voice took on an edge of steel. Know this: Earth's oceans are no longer your hunting ground. They are our fortress, our laboratory, our home. Every wave carries our resolve, every current bears our strength, and every creature in the depths stands ready to defend this world. As she spoke, a massive shape moved beneath New Atlantis. One of the engineered colossal squid, its tentacles longer than aircraft carriers, its body housing quantum computers more powerful than anything on the surface. It was just one of many such guardians, hidden until now in the darkness of the deep. The time for secrets is over, Santos concluded. The time for unity has begun. Together, surface and depth, human and marine life, land and sea, we will show the galaxy that Earth's oceans aren't just filled with water. They're filled with wonders. And we will defend them all. The first attack came at dawn, 3 days after the revelation. The Depth Hunters' advance forces struck with devastating precision, targeting what they assumed were Earth's weakest points, the poles where the ocean currents were coldest and most predictable. They never expected those same currents to fight back. From her position in New Atlantis' command center, Dr. Santos watched as centuries of marine wisdom merged with human innovation. Pods of engineered whales moved in perfect formation, their bodies channeling quantum fields that disrupted the hunters' energy weapons. Schools of bioluminescent fish created living sensor networks, tracking enemy movements with microscopic precision. Northern Defense Grid, fully operational, reported a technician, his skin gleaming with adaptive chromatophores. The ice-dwelling communities are responding. Commander Vale stood beside Santos, her copper scales reflecting the emergency lighting. Your people have modified the Arctic itself. Not modified, Santos corrected, watching as massive shapes moved beneath the polar ice. Awakened, the ice holds memories, Commander. Ancient memories of when the Depth Hunters first visited Earth, long before humans walked the land. We just helped it remember how to fight back. The enemy vessels, massive organic mechanical hybrids designed to harvest ocean worlds, found themselves trapped in quantum currents they couldn't comprehend. Every attempt to breach Earth's waters was met with resistance, not just from technology, but from the fundamental nature of the ocean itself. Multiple enemy signatures approaching New Atlantis. Tarn announced from his temporary station. Their main force is committing. Santos smiled, just as the coral matrices predicted. Professor Deepmind. The sperm whale's consciousness touched all of their minds simultaneously, its vast intelligence coordinating defenses across multiple quantum dimensions. Under its guidance, the colossal squid emerged from their deep-sea trenches, their modified bodies housing weapons that defied conventional physics. Surface nations' forces are in position, another operator reported. They're following the quantum link protocols perfectly. Above them, the combined navies of Earth's surface nations moved in patterns taught to them by dolphins, their ships riding quantum waves that made them nearly invisible. Below, submarines guided by octopi specialists slipped through dimensional pockets in the water itself, emerging behind enemy lines to strike with devastating precision. The Depth Hunters, faced with resistance unlike anything in their long history of conquest, began to retreat. But the ocean wasn't finished with them yet. Initiating Protocol Tsunami, Santos commanded. Every deep city around the world activated their coral quantum computers simultaneously. The ocean itself seemed to pause for a moment, as if taking a deep breath. Then reality rippled. The enemy fleet found themselves caught in what appeared to be a quantum storm, but it was more than that. It was the combined will of every ocean creature, every modified human, every drop of water on Earth, expressed through technology that had evolved rather than being built. Message from the Galactic Council. Vale reported, her scales shifting to amazement. They're detecting the quantum disturbance from 40 light-years away. Nothing like this has ever been recorded. Because they never understood what we learned in the depths, Santos replied, watching as the Depth Hunters' ships were systematically dismantled by forces they couldn't comprehend. Life itself is the most advanced technology in the universe. We just had to learn how to listen to it. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 6 hours. When it was over, the Depth Hunters had been completely driven from the solar system, their supposedly invincible fleet broken by an ocean that had learned to defend itself. In the aftermath, as surface nations leaders arrived at New Atlantis for the first official diplomatic summit, Commander Vale received an urgent message from the Galactic Council. They were struggling to classify Earth's civilization level. It didn't fit any existing category. Tell them, Santos suggested, standing beside a window that looked out into the deep, where whales and humans work together to repair quantum defense grids, that they need new categories. Tell them humanity didn't ascend their technological ladder. We dove deep instead and found a different path entirely. A young octopus drifted past the window, its skin displaying complex quantum equations as it helped calibrate the city's shields. Nearby, a group of children played in quantum current pools, their laughter harmonizing with whale song in ways that would have seemed impossible just days ago. The Depth Hunters will return, Vale warned, though her tone carried more curiosity than concern. Of course they will, Santos agreed. And we'll be ready. But more importantly, we'll be here, continuing to learn, to grow, to evolve. Not as conquerors of the ocean, but as its students, its partners, its guardians. As if in response, a bioluminescent wave passed through the city, carrying messages, data, and emotions all at once, the new language of a civilization that had chosen to sink rather than soar, and in doing so, had risen higher than anyone could have imagined. In the depths of Earth's oceans, humanity had not just found a place to hide or a way to fight. They had found a new way to exist, proving that sometimes the greatest achievements don't come from reaching for the stars, but from diving deep enough to discover that the extraordinary was there all along, waiting in the darkness for someone brave enough to listen and learn.